to keep me on the ball here. I'm full. We used to say in the hood, I'm full of fluid and ready to do it. The problem is I'm doing some of the wrong things here. I'm talking, and Dave's over here just he's chomping at the bit.
He's got duct tape on my mouth right now.
I do, because I'm not through pontificating on my own. Anyway, so we do have as our guest today Dr. John Cox, who has been running for superintendent of education for the state of Oklahoma the past couple of times, and he's going to give it a third time's the charm, as they say, and we hope so. And I think for full disclosure, and I think Dr. Cox understands, Dave knows for sure, I was a supporter of his the last 2 times.
He's bragging.
No. If I were bragging, I'd be bragging because he is the superintendent of education. He unfortunately did not win the last 2 times.
Eddie, you should be bragging. You're one of the few who wasn't snookered by the rhino they put in back, 13 years ago? 14? Yeah.
Wow, has it been that long?
Yeah, it was in 14 that we were hit with the rhino, Joy Hoffmeister.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even back then I was on KFAQ, and I already knew she was bad news. So, and then she switched parties and tried to become governor.
And then they tried to pull it on us again this last time.
Yeah.
You know, the whole machine that's making millions, billions off of us, tried to present this next candidate as some pastor's wife, and I'm sorry. We've been down that road. And, but I was talking before the show to John that, people are going to say, oh, you used to be a Democrat, so you're not a real Republican. And I'm like, you know what? I will put up the conservative values of Little Dixie, Indian Territory, as they would call it, and the conservatives there that for a long time you wanted to vote in county elections and leadership. Your real choice was in that primary. Now it's changed, but I would assert that a lot of people like John were Democrat in name only for all those years.
Right.
Because you grew up in a Republican family.
I did.
And your family's values haven't changed.
No, they haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because my parents lived in El Paso, Texas. It's around the border of Mexico, and it's Democrat to the gills, all the way, boom. And so every Republican I knew there, everybody I went to church with, everybody else, they were all Democrats because if they weren't, they couldn't vote in the primary. They could only, and basically the primaries is where you get to decide a lot of times who the real eventual winner, and you're choosing basically between the 2 Democrats because one of those Democrats is going to end up being the person. But
and I registered at 18 as a Republican, and then I went to vote, and there was nobody on the primary ballot.
If you got a ballot, and I know what happened in 14. Mike Ford got sent to dig up all kinds of dirt on your. Mike Ford.
I did.
Yeah, I know Mike Ford too. Yeah. And
we all know Mike Ford.
He was sent there by the GOP establishment that was controlled by the Fount Holland Age Strategies, which was running the Hoffmeister. In fact, Fount and Joy initially got indicted over what they were doing, and of course Prater screwed everything up, so they got rid of that. But at least we got to see how they were making the sausage, and it was ugly.
I think we all have some Mike Ford stories. We won't go into those. But, John, hey, welcome though, Dr. John Cox. So John. I have to give it to you that if at first you don't succeed, you try again. And I appreciate that. And I think it's because you really have it at heart to affect the education in Oklahoma. And, could you put your mic a little closer? There you go. Okay. Yes. But now, let me ask you this. People keep saying we're 50th. We've dropped all the way to 50th in the country. Do you know the actual statistics? Are we truly number 50, or are we still around 48, between 48 and 50?
I think we're between 45 and 50.
Oh.
And if you look at the variables that they used, a lot of them are out of our control. And so to place us at 50, it's really almost subjective. But we're still not doing what we should be doing.
Right, right.
And so I'm excited about the chance to get in there and make some improvements automatically with our education system.
So tell us, what do you feel the major areas of improvement that the state board can make that will affect the system?
Well, there are three things I've really been campaigning on, and there's thousands of little things that we can do. But the main thing is pre-K through fifth grade, infusing reading. Phonics back in, we kind of went to whole language for a while, and it just really messed everything up. But phonics is the key, strong science of reading. At my school, all pre-K through fifth grade teachers are trained in the science of reading. And if you go watch them teach it, it's extremely specific. Our non-readers learn why a letter goes next to another letter and why they make a sound. And so they're actually learning how to read.
I never got that.
I wanted to ask.
I could sit down on that class.
Oh, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
John, you and I both know there are some that phonics just isn't the right way, but most do better with phonics. Do you know what that breakdown is?
Well, okay, so when you do phonics, the science of reading also breaks it down actually to, it has all the different kinesthetic and, use your hands, you use your voice. Mm-hmm. And so you're learning with all different learning styles.
Now, that's a good point.
So it does.
So there are several ways to teach phonics.
And it's embedded in the science of reading, so it reaches every child. And that's why I was talking about non-readers who essentially kind of grow up to be non-readers. It can catch them because they're actually learning the rules of the letters and how it comes across. So when they're reading a book, they don't use sight words anymore. It's just they learn how to break that word down and say it. Okay. And it's so important to what we do. So it eliminates what you're talking about on those kids that can't learn that way, because it teaches all different senses that you use.
It's great to know.
So visual or auditory and even hands-on and kinesthetic, all the different ways. So it reaches every child.
Yeah. The reason I say that, I'm a homeschool dad. Yeah. I used to teach at a Christian school, and one of my kids, it was years and years and years. And we went to TU to find his speech therapist, everything, private speech therapist for years and that. And the funny thing is, once it came around to Bible quiz time in sixth grade, something about that memorization skills filled in the missing part. And now, fantastic reader, fantastic orator. So everybody's a little different.
It's individualized.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of us as homeschool parents, we like the individualized. Yeah. I know on mass scale, it's just like, come on.
It's the ultimate. Homeschooling is the ultimate education.
If the state could afford it, it would be great, but we can't.
Well, you have one person in front that wants you to succeed.
Yeah.
And they focus on you. And so that's why homeschooling is the best that you can have. And a teacher with 20 kids is difficult, even without an aid, but a teacher with 35 and no aid.
Yeah, Eddie and I, it was 30s in our class, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's an area that we will focus on, and that's really the Mississippi Miracle. I was reading about it, and that's how they went from 50 down to, I think, 17. And we used to say, thank God for Mississippi, because we were 49 and they were 50. That used to be the same. So
they're up in the 20s now, aren't they?
I heard 17. You hear different. I even heard one governor candidate say they went to number one. Well, I would want us to focus to go number one. But I think if we do that, and right now our testing kind of gets in the way. And so that fits in with this, because in fourth and fifth grade, we start teaching science, and then fifth grade they have to take a science test. Well, the science test has nothing to do really with science. It does, or what they're supposed to be teaching. And so I want to really focus all the way through the end of fifth grade on reading and math.
Let me go back to something you just said about, because I keep hearing this, there's too much testing. So how can you know if the kids are learning without the testing? Or what makes it too much?
That's a great question, because we do too much testing. And really, I want to get away with the nonsensical testing. And the end of the year snapshot does no good for our schools. Mm-hmm. I get the results in August. And so what do you do with that once you get those results?
Because they're already promoted.
Right. But with the growth, well, they are, and you've already bypassed the time where you could teach them.
Right.
And with the growth model, you immediately the next day change instruction to fit their weaknesses. Mm-hmm. And so and it does away with test prepping for 2 months before you take the test. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't test prep, if you don't play the game, you'll make a D or an F on your report card. So you have to play the game, and there's no new learning. You're just learning to take a test with the information
you're teaching to the test, they call it.
Yeah, and you know, so that costs around $30 million to the state. So why not just do growth 3 times a year, and at the end of the year, growth is where you just see where they've progressed.
Okay.
For what they're supposed to learn. Mm-hmm. And so in January you do a growth test, and then you can immediately change instruction to fit what they haven't learned, so that they don't get behind. So there's no holes or gaps in the learning. And then you teach all the way up to May, teach new instruction. And for my school, that's 2 months of new instruction every year that we could get. But we're really good at test prepping, because I'm not going to let my school be a D or F school. I mean, we want to make that A or B, but that doesn't matter to a child. The grade doesn't. It's what they're learning in the class makes the difference.
Okay, so what you've told us is you're committed to learning and implementing everything we can from Mississippi success, the state of Mississippi.
Yes. Yeah.
Good. So we've got that covered.
Because that's what I do. I mean, I already do that plan in my school.
Okay.
And I see value in that. And they really influxed around $15 million into the reading programs.
Yeah.
And had a director specifically for that.
Okay.
So somebody focused.
Despite the imperfections of our current testing, that what we are seeing a snapshot of is the rural schools tend to be doing better than urban. In fact, I think in the top 100, only Bixby and Jinx made the top 100, and barely. So the best education is happening in the small towns.
Well, I think one stat that I heard, and of course you can make anything up, but if you take Oklahoma City and Tulsa out, we move up to 17. and see, and I haven't found where they got that stat, but they're out speaking it. And and if you look at that, you kind of look at focus. I know Tulsa's really tried to start focusing more on reading.
Let me ask you this, since you gave us that stat.
Yeah, and it's not my stat.
No. I understand, but you made that aware to it.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, but let me ask you, because you can't get away without. I'm trying to figure out a good way to say this. Sound like some black racist. A sellout or whatever they want to call me.
Uncle Tom.
Thank you. That even though that's a misnomer.
Yeah, I know.
But essentially, if you pulled out North Tulsa from our stats, and what is it? North OKC probably is the black area of Oklahoma. So predominantly, everything's getting more mixed. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But if you pulled out those schools that serve those communities, do you think, or do you have any stats, or have you seen any stats to say if we pulled those communities out of the stats that we would be higher?
I would, just by saying what I repeated with the entire Oklahoma City School District and Tulsa Public, I would see that happening. But I try not to give any excuse to anyone for learning. And so I think that's really valuable to say, because a child is a child. They're just in different situations. Poverty in the rural area looks different than poverty in the city area.
Sure, but what I'm getting at is. But
I would make a educated guess that you're correct.
Okay, that's all.
And you don't want to say that, because you don't want to give an excuse to a child in their situation not to.
No. I agree. I'm not, and that's what I'm trying to say. It's not the kids. It's probably the family background, the family dynamic. Yeah. It's the community.
Family plays a large role.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
Right. Oh yeah. And because I've seen it. It's I give all the credit for my kids' success to my wife, because she took the time when they were young, in those early learning stages, in a foreign school, in a foreign country, and she didn't hardly speak the language, but she instilled in them what they needed to do to learn whatever they needed to learn. But I'm convinced that so much of that dynamic that creates failures in our school system, it's not the kids. It's not to say
it's not their fault.
Exactly. It's not kids in North Tulsa, Northwest Oklahoma City. It's the home situation. Probably 95% of it is the home situation. And then you can, at some point, get to the teachers that say, oh, this is just hopeless. This is hopeless, and that you just get frustrated because you send the kids home to learn something, they come back, wasn't done. And so how do you plan to tackle that? Well, how do we overcome that?
So I always say motivation is the key to learning. And that's really what you're talking about. They have to be motivated to come, and there has to be caring from the home for them to learn. Mm-hmm. And there has to be purpose. And so if we can, when I'm in there and when we do this for pre-K through fifth grade, it will actually get every school district everywhere, every local site, no matter where they're at, even if it's North Tulsa, North Oklahoma City, they will still be doing the same thing we are. And so they still bring the child that's in there that's in poverty just like we do in the rural areas. And they still do them systematically the same way on teaching them. So it gives them a leg up no matter where they come from. And, and over the years I've always talked to our students because ours comes from areas that are very difficult. Mm-hmm. And so our thing to them is, yes, you live in that area, but this is up to you. You can change. And these are young people. And I think that can be done everywhere. So I think you have to actually mirror that belief, and you have to let teachers know you're empowering them. And I think so long that our teachers have just been held down. Mm-hmm. And with all these different extra things they have to do besides teaching, has really hurt our teachers. And that's where the shortage comes from. I mean, they don't want to work in an environment where it's all paperwork. It's not about the child.
I had a client. Her husband was a professor at TU. She retired from the Tulsa school system. She was teaching, I think it was at Carver. It was part of the magnet system. Is that right?
Yeah.
I believe that's right.
Carver and Booker T.
Because it feeds into Booker T.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, and then a year later, she's teaching at Holland Hall and eventually Cassia Hall. I said, I thought you were retired. And she says, retired from the public school system. Yeah. And I said, so why'd you go back? She says, for the first time in my career, I'm being treated like a professional. And this is from the administration of Tulsa Public Schools that she had the problem. Yeah. They treated them like kindergartners. And I agree. I won't just blame administrators, though.
But leadership's everything.
Well, it is, but the leadership that you get from the legislature is sometimes kind of a one-size-fits-all that might sound great on the campaign stump. Yeah. For people like you who put your whole career into this, you say, no, like that third grade thing, unless they're in this subject at this level, you got to hold back everything else. Yeah. And there are sometimes that wasn't the best thing.
No.
Because you'd have, an 11-year-old in third grade beating up everybody on the playground.
And that's one thing. And then you have second graders not wanting to go to third grade, knowing they're going to have to pass a test to go on. I mean, when you think about an 8 or 9-year-old having to worry about going to another grade, takes all the love of learning away.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm glad we had flexibility with that.
Yeah, I want to say something about that love of learning. As a homeschool dad, one of the things I want to do is make sure my kids always loved learning. So I never used education as a punishment. Yeah. And I remember, throwing a snowball and hit a girl back in 4th grade. And I had to, here's my punishment, write an 800-word essay. Yeah. Now, what did that teach me about writing? it's a punishment.
Or write sentences.
Yeah.
There has to be another way to handle that, where it's not punishment.
Yes, so that kids all of a sudden realize how much they love learning. Yeah. They really do.
It should be a lifetime lesson. We should, like right now, I should be inspired to learn other things, which I am. Yeah. But I think that should be a lifetime thing that we teach them.
One of the things Gary Stanislawski, the former Education Committee chair, was my senator. I worked with him on it until COVID killed it, that session. He was going to try to break up some of our big school districts into smaller, like take every high school or two and their feeders and make a district of that. Yeah. In all of your years, occasionally you get together with other superintendents like yourself and school district superintendents. And I read a study about idea of what is the most optimal efficient size of a district, not a school, a district, so that you've got enough in that you can create some of the specialty programs because you have enough kids to spread the cost over. But you aren't eaten up by administrative costs like TPS is. Yeah. 1889 Institute said in Oklahoma, every district over 10,000 students, you're paying an average extra $1,000 per kid on administrative. So bigger is not more efficient.
Right.
And what I read said about 5,000, roughly 4,000 or 5,000 is the optimal, according to these superintendents. I wanted your feedback on, because that subject's going to come up about consolidating.
And it has. And so currently there's a law where there's a cap on administrative cost. And if you're truly going to lower administrative costs, you just move that percentage down. And right now for large systems, it's 5%. And for real small systems, I believe 7%. So like if a school district has $1 million in revenue, they can only pay $70,000 for a superintendent.
Okay.
And so that helps control what you're talking about. When the discussion comes about optimal size of school, it should really be about efficiency and what that school can do for academic progress. And so like I see a lot of small schools, and that's who I'm president over 91 K-8 school districts across the state. We do a phenomenal job on laying a foundation for our children to go into high school and do anything they want to. We're from statehood. And so we have all different sizes from 100 all the way up to 1,000 kids. Yeah. And we're out there, like my district's 85 square miles of hills, dirt roads, creeks. So we're isolated. And so to come out and say, well, you're too small, or we should put you under another jurisdiction, it takes away from local control of the people in that community, and also puts another layer of bureaucracy. And I always, when people say we want to consolidate schools, I said, well, do you want us to be like Tulsa and have so many layers of bureaucracy that you never see the superintendent?
Right. And then two other issues. One is the remoteness. Harmon County has maybe 300-400 kids. You're not going to bust them two counties over in the name of consolidating. And then there's the cultural part of it. For instance, Muskogee has 6,000-7,000 kids. That's already too big. Don't send any kids into the county seat. You take something like Carter County with about 8 rural school districts. Don't bust them in to the Ardmore public schools. Combine rural with rural if you're going to do it.
Well, the hidden question is are we being efficient with our taxpayer money?
Yeah.
I mean, that is the underlying question in all of this. And so you can come into our small schools and see that we know where every penny is. And I don't know if you remember 2008, 2009, Tulsa Public let go 300 administrators. Yeah. I don't know if you remember that. And I'm sitting out there in rural Oklahoma going, where did you have 300 administrators and why didn't you need them? And so that kind of told me where there's excess. And I know a lot of the excess in large systems is where there's more principals and assistant principals, but I do understand that because of types of behaviors now that are becoming more prevalent out there. So
let me ask you this. So That's been an issue from way back when I was on KFAQ. The number of superintendents we have.
Yeah.
And everyone's always afraid of consolidating these school districts because the rural you have a lot of them.
Right.
And
right.
Is it possible to do kind of a compromise between, in other words, have one superintendent for more schools or less superintendents for the schools we have, but still giving the autonomy and responsibility to the principal? And then, kind of like you do with a corporation, you have the executive officer, the CEO, and then you have those department heads and everything, and they then report to the superintendent. So I'm just thinking that I think we're top heavy in superintendents. And if we had some less superintendents and keep the good people closer to, now in your case, you're both, right?
I'm superintendent principal.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So in your case, you're both. So, but if we can get less superintendents, more quality principals, I'm thinking that would be a step in the right direction, budget-wise. And, and if somebody's not able to handle, say, especially rurally, the schools are smaller.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to be with this group over which the travel is very far and long, but at the same time, you report to one person, and then that person reports to the state and so forth. I'm just thinking there's a lot of pork, a lot of fat, a lot of times in having a superintendent and principal. For example, are you over just one school?
Yes, I'm over one single site.
One single site.
Yeah.
Okay, and would it be possible or feasible for you to oversee several rural communities in your area within, say, 20 miles, 30 miles, whatever, and be able to consolidate, and then you take the responsibility to see each of those principals, and they report to you, and you guys collectively determine the future of your school and so forth?
See, we actually had that back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, where we had a county superintendent.
Remember that?
And they just had principals at the districts.
Right.
But they did away with that because of the inefficiency of... That was
part of 1017.
Yeah, because really you were hiring another person just to be over those people, another layer.
And I'm going to add something to this. Well, back in the time of Deborah Gist, she had how many associate superintendents under her from Baltimore and Detroit, and she's bussing them in, and they're making more than you were.
Right, but getting back to what I'm saying is you have one superintendent, and he essentially is the CEO of, say, 3-4 districts.
Yeah. Then he has 3 or 4 school boards. Who has his loyalty?
And there's an option now to do that. Like, I could be a dual superintendent in 2 districts. I think and it's very difficult because once you do that, it's like you said, whose loyalty do you have? Because both districts, if they're side by side, they're watching everything you do for the other district. It would be, and this is a really bad example, but it'd be like having 2 wives. Mm-hmm. Which one do you take care of? Which one do you please?
But see, that's where you have to pick the right person who doesn't have a dog in the fight.
Yeah.
Right. And so, in other words, his job or her job, let's say their job, is to make sure the district is the best. So if I've got a weaker school over here, I'm going to put resources and find out what's wrong with that one to get it up at the level of the best school in my district. Whereas you've got,
I completely disagree.
That's the best case scenario, but it doesn't have, because of the human nature of it.
That's the problem.
One group would always be watching what the other group gets.
You would like Eddie being a talk show host for a KFAQ and another one on KRMG.
But I think
it ain't going to work.
I think my major concern is
it's a different animal.
Loss of community control. Because let's say Tahlequah took over me, it took over our school district, then they would be control of what my community gets, and my community would have to answer to them. And my community really wants our school and have parent control of that school.
Right, but see, here's how you deal with that. Okay, let's say you're over 3 communities. Okay, they're all in a consolidated district. if you're not doing the job, in other words, say you're from Tahlequah and you're making sure Tahlequah is getting all the money, getting all the attention, the people in the other areas, next election, you're gone because you've now neglected us in favor of those other two schools. Your job is to see that all of these schools, I mean, I know what you're talking about, but see, I think that's where we've, basically I call it balkanization, because basically now we've made districts in competition with another district instead of being in competition with another state. And you see what I'm saying?
I can see that.
In other words,
I'll take any competition at this point.
Well, but you can't have this inner district or inner community fighting that we want ours. They got that. We want.
But
this.
that's what you get when you consult, because the people of his district would have one vote on one school board member in the Tahlequah system.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Well, right. Well,
but I could do what you're saying. But I would have to have 3 good principals if I was over 3 schools.
There you go.
And then it would increase the layer of bureaucracy by having to hire another principal.
Well,
since I am that superintendent principal.
Wait, you'd have to hire 3 principals of what?
Well, okay, so I have 3 sites, right?
Right.
So I would have a principal in each site.
Well, are you principal over 3 schools now?
I would be the superintendent over 3 schools in your scenario.
Right.
And if I am, I would have to have a principal in each site.
And we don't have principals at those?
Not full-time
But
principals.
wait a minute. But it's getting closer to the old county superintendent.
Yeah.
Ideally,
and see, I'm full-time superintendent and principal. And then the person that helps me with discipline, he actually teaches all day. But
what I'm saying is, so if you're a principal, how many schools are you principal at?
I would be principal of 1.
Right now?
Site, yeah.
Okay, and then another site has a principal.
They would have to.
Every school, but they don't?
Every school would have to have a principal. But like the schools I would be over would be ones who are already superintendent principals. They already have that person.
Well, then to me, you shouldn't have that many superintendents. Oh, no,
well,
I do.
And really,
make them principal, let them remain principal.
And that's kind of what I say.
And then have one superintendent.
I just tell them, change my name, change my title, let me do the same job.
Right.
And I have to say, being from Minnesota, where they adopted open transfer, completely, it has killed community support for schools. Because all of a sudden, our town's not competing against peers in Little Falls, because the best athletes of Little Falls bus to peers. So now all of a sudden their families, bond issue for a new football stadium. No, our kid plays for the opponent. Yeah. And it's tough. It really is tough.
See, now you've hit the real issue. Mm-hmm. The real issue. We've gotten away from educating our kids.
Yes.
That's what we got to get back to. We're worried about, their football teams. When we're worried about
whether it's sports or whatever, it's support for your community school system.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be that way. It should be support for our state school system. Educating our kids, who cares what they're doing?
No, I agree. Sports sometimes gets way too important.
No, and listen, I know what I'm saying is different from the way things are seen. I think that's the real problem. The real problem to me is that we've got these fiefdoms and the school boards are all worried about me and mine and us and ours, and we're putting value in the wrong things. Education across the board has one function: to educate those kids in front of you. Yeah. And once if you're doing the best job with those kids in front of you, then everybody. So that's all I'm saying. It's not. Yeah. It should not be this competition.
John, we're in the debate here. You're the referee and moderator.
I know. So really, and the underlying question is, are you efficient?
Yeah.
And so in our schools, we have to watch every penny, because if we don't, we'll be gone.
Yeah.
And so you can be rest assured that we're watching those. And the bigger you get, the more money you have come in. So there's a little, and you saw it in Tulsa Public in the audit that came out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of room and a lot of money for fraud and deception. And
yes,
and so, But ours,
and there's prison sentences for some of them.
Oh, yeah. And when we have to make a decision on do we fix a bus or do we get an air conditioner or do we buy an ice machine because that's the money we have, that's when you know that we're doing a good job watching every penny.
Right.
And I want to ask you this. You're not that far away from Pocola Public Schools.
Down by Poto.
Yeah. They basically got the axe, right? They were doing so bad. What do you know about what led to the state saying we're shutting down the school district, all assets are moving over to another school district?
Well, I've seen that in the past, and I'm okay with that if the local district says that we need to do it, because it's not forced consolidation. And then that makes the process go even better. I've been involved in 2 of those in helping the state on dividing up territory and assets. And so I've been involved in that.
What were the pressures that led to that need? Because I thought it was somewhat ineptness or maybe corruption in Pocola.
I think probably more than anything, it's probably lack of students.
Oh.
Because your income is derived by the students that you have and the types of students that you have. And there's a certain point where you can't run an effective school. And when you have to start doubling and tripling up classes like first, second, third grade together, it makes it extremely difficult to be effective.
Okay, because the state's funding is on average daily attendance.
It's based upon the type of the student you have and the type of student. They can be gone. They can be absent.
So a white kid doesn't get as much funding as a black kid, as a tribal.
Not in those categories. All kids are looked at as the same for a grade weight.
You're talking about special needs.
But special needs children, like autism, there's a certain grade weight. It's like 2.4.
Yeah, I got that.
Almost 2.5 times.
But it's on attendance, average daily attendance.
It's on membership.
Yeah.
Because and I make that distinction because you can be absent and you don't get docked the money when they're gone for sickness or anything like that. So it's who you have on membership. And you get so much per child. And if you don't have enough children and you can't provide a service, then you really have to look at, am I doing the children right?
Don't we also, because I know this happened years ago to us, our son came home one day and it was in the morning, so my wife was fixing him lunch, and he says, "Oh no, you don't have to do that. They give me lunch for free." So they're giving you lunch for free. Well, we found out that they had signed him up for the food program, where I don't know what the rate is now, but back then I think it was $5.50 or something per day per student, and so the school just sought out kids that they assumed needed food, the food allocation, that they could sign up so they could get this extra money. And so you have all these schools, and this was not a North Tulsa or a poor district. It's one of our better districts that was bringing in this money because they're signing all these kids up automatically for the school lunch program.
Yeah.
And so,
but it's part of federal formulas that's looked at, right?
Right. So that's another area that really needs to be reformed.
Well, and see, like at our school, every child eats free breakfast, free lunch. We're 77% free and reduced, and we're what you call provisional too, which is kind of in the weeds, but we provide that, and we just started a third meal so that our kids will be able to eat before they go home. And in our area, that needs to happen. Yeah. But you have to run the program off the 77% of kids that are in poverty to bring enough money in to take care of all kids.
Okay. So
that's Ryan Walters' initiative. And when they approached me on that, they said, "Do you think that's a good idea?" And I said, "It's a great idea. I've been doing it 30 years."
Yeah.
And so,
but see, I kind of have an issue with that because if you start doing that, it doesn't give the motivation to the parents to take care of their kids' nutritional needs, and I think that's the reason we have.
I can see that.
Your poverty and
whatever you feed, you get more of.
Right. Yeah, and you have that particularly in your black communities where the people just got, the welfare mentality. Oh, they're supposed to do this for us. They're supposed to do that. I don't need to do that. They're going to, and I'm afraid it's bled over into the population at large. It's not racially centered anymore. It's anybody that feels, oh, I can get free food. I'll just or like some of my clients, people that I know that, 28 years old, 30 years old, and they're on disability just because they qualify for this. They don't need it. They could be working, but I call it the white man's welfare, disability, because, a lot of white people would never dare take welfare checks, Section 8 or whatever. But disability is another thing because I've got excuse.
Because I can't help it. I'm disabled.
Exactly. So I'm just, a lot of these things I really have an issue with, and I think if we restricted the free lunch program, which you got 3 squares a day program,
yes.
I think if we restricted some of that and got it to where the people really need it or something,
Well, it's mission creep too. That's an issue.
I think one of the issues we saw early on. Because, of course, we love them everybody eating breakfast because that just means that they're going to be able to focus.
Right.
Oh, and they get to school on time then.
They get, absolutely.
Yeah.
But what we noticed, where the income guidelines are, they're right at the level where parents, two working parents could afford it, but they can't afford it. Mm-hmm. And so the level of income was right there. And so you don't really have the extreme wealthy parents. You might have a small percentage of them, but it was the working parents that it really put a hardship on, who could pay it, but it would actually take away from other things they could do for their kids. And
like going to the casino.
Yeah, but I understand I do understand what you're saying, though.
Yeah,
I do.
To me, it's just part of that whole thing. I grew up. My parents hardly had any money, but my mother had enough to slap bologna on and mustard on a slice of bread or a PBJ, and then the little half pints of milk we used to get when we.
That's what we have. Yeah.
You get one of those in your lunchbox, a sandwich, and maybe an apple, and that's it. You weren't eating largely, and
So I want to say
I love it.
You're speaking specifically to the part of Oklahoma that you've dedicated your career to.
Yes.
Wes Watkins, beloved former congressman, both Democrat and Republican, right? I ran into him one day. I was at Oklahoma State University, and I said, I was just down there south of the Winding Staircase Mountains down in Beaver's Bend and stuff. I said, my God, Wes, that's the most beautiful part of America. He says, oh, yeah. He says, but it's poor as can be. And that's the sad thing about Indian country. It is the most gorgeous part of Oklahoma.
Absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
Whether you're along the Arkansas border like you or down there by Atoka, it is. And I'm like, businessmen, you want to move your business out of big city? Talk to this guy. He knows where some good land and good workers are. Because that's what Wes has been saying the whole time he was in Washington. He was trying to bring jobs and funding and economic development.
Yeah, and they've figured that out down in Broken Bow.
Yeah,
down in that area. Yeah. But I don't view it as a free lunch. I view it as something that we're just taking care of our little ones, and that's part of what we do to get them to learn.
But it is mission creep. I understand it helps your education function, so that's a good thing.
But lunch and dinner?
Yeah, we just started the third meal.
Yeah,
before they end, and we do have kids that go home that don't have anything in their cupboards.
Now that's coming out of a federal funding source.
That's coming out of, and it comes. Yes, it's reimbursable, federal and state.
Okay,
and it's reimbursable, and we are able to take the ones that get it free, the money that we get back for them, to be able to pay the ones who.
And this was something Governor Stitt approved.
Well,
right?
let me get back to this. So of all of those kids, their parents don't work.
Oh, yes, a lot of them do work.
Okay, and
then some are with grandparents. We have a lot of kids throughout the state that are with their grandparents who they're trying to take care of, and they're on fixed incomes.
Right. See, but a lot of it's just me. I just have a problem with the amount of welfare, which has become basically free fare to so much of our population. You know, these same people are getting welfare, free medical care. Now they feed the kids. Oh, I don't have to feed the kids anymore. And I guarantee you, if you find out where the money's going every month, it's going somewhere that has nothing to do with the family. They're basically out spending it. And you know, I come from real poor background myself, and I know all of the kids. You probably, you might have grown up.
What you had in Germany was much worse than most America sees as poverty today.
Right, and even coming to America, you know, I lived in projects in Philadelphia, you know, but they always had enough to feed me, you know, breakfast and go to, you know, and then I got a nickel where you could get a pretzel and orange juice at break time, and I mean, we're talking way back. You know?
I remember.
Yeah, but
how German pretzels.
Yeah, but well, Philadelphia had the best pretzel.
Oh yeah.
But you know, a nickel, and you could get that, and then I had my little bag lunch for lunch. So it was Catholic school, of course, but you know, but it wasn't free.
Yeah,
there was always, in other words, it cost you something to learn.
Yeah,
it can, you know, when it's free, we all know anything that's free for some reason in our mind doesn't have as much value as something that you're actually. So if I'm paying to go to school, even though it's a nickel or something, you know, but you know, and your parents are telling you, I'm not sending you to school to just eat this.
Yeah, I'm sure John and every other professional educator wishes some of the families would value what they're being offered.
Exactly. Oh no, I'm not throwing stones at you or those in your profession. I'm just saying this is where the government has gone, and there's so much, to me, superfluous money out there, and it takes more and more of the personal responsibility for education from the individual. And if we went the other way, if all of a sudden we said, you know, no more free lunch, you know, and we will come into your house. I mean, I'm going real Nazi now. We're going to open your cupboards.
Welcome to Eddie's America.
We're going to open your cupboards and see if, you know, if you have steak and chicken in your fridge or booze in your house or whatever. You know, I know we can't do that, but I'm just saying. But I would bet you if you did go into a lot of these houses, and you would find that the parents are at one of the casinos, probably at least once a week, if not more. In other words, there's always money there. America is if you're on welfare, they give you welfare enough to take care of your family.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eddie.
I'm sorry. I stopped. I'm done.
I agree with you.
Don, I'm sorry to put you in that position.
What I want
Listen
to
to
say
my rants.
is, Eddie, the real concerns that you're voicing, and I feel those too, those are decisions that aren't made at John's level.
Oh, no, I know.
They're made by the governor and the legislature. Right. What's important for a guy like John is to make sure it's implemented and not...
Implemented properly.
Yes, and not put in somebody's pocket. Make sure that was intended for hungry kids. I'm going to make sure it goes to them.
Yeah.
And it's also a diverse funding stream. Sometimes, you know, the hard job of having to make a layoff and lose a good employee.
Oh, yeah.
Because the funding's not there. So I understand in your situation.
Yeah, thanks for getting me out of that, Dave.
I know I did.
Let me do that. Let's step totally out of that, honestly, because what we really have you here
But I do have an understanding of what you're saying.
I believe. But ultimately, in your job as superintendent of public education, I'm prophesying here. But in light of that, what do you see going on now that you feel could be improved upon, and to really bring us up into at least, say, the top 20, top 30?
Yeah, and I've been saying top 25, although I have number one in my mind, because I think we shoot for everything.
Right, sure.
But the reading program I'm talking about is significant to getting us there quickly. They base our ranking off of NAEP, National Assessments, Educational Progress. Only about 2 to 3% of our students in the entire state in 4th and 8th grade take that. And so they're basing our 50th ranking off of the scores off of that. So there's no motivation in our schools who actually do the testing. My school has never done NAEP testing. So, we perform pretty well on tests. And like I said a while ago, motivation is the key. Well, a lot of schools, when they do NAEP testing, they just put the test in front of the kid and have the student take it, and then that's it. There's no motivation to do well on the NAEP test. That has to change if we're going to be part of that process. And that automatically in itself will help increase test scores. If a student believes that this is important, they're going to work as hard as they can on that test. Because every testing period, I go around to every room and go, who is this important to? Mm-hmm. And eventually they get to themselves, but they have to say me, they have to point at me, and they point at the teacher, and they have to look at themselves. And so motivation is a key to increasing that. Automatically it does that. And we can improve academic progress by the growth model that I've discussed. And that was something that Ryan threw out there about 3 weeks ago and just got hammered for it. But I texted him and I said, I love that, because that's what I was trying to convince him to do 3 to 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he apologized for it and said it's just he's been working with the feds to get that done. And that's a long process. Mm-hmm. So immediately that gets us moving upwards to 25.
Really?
Yeah. And then if you focus all the way through 5th grade and make sure there are readers when they leave 5th grade, then you can go into science and history and all the other curriculums. But you have to provide that foundation. We have high school kids leaving high school that can't read, and that's proven. We have to beat that, because that's what we're here for. The rankings I don't care so much about, but perception's everything, and that provides motivation to teachers and going, hey, we've moved up, we can move up farther, and so that leadership will help improve. And then you work with special needs kids who have an IEP. And on their specific goals and objectives, when we test, we don't go by those. We expect a kid to perform 4 or 5 grades above what they're able to do, and they fail the test. Mm-hmm. I want those children to have motivation and success.
And reward for achieving.
Oh, instead of going and a child with intellectual difficulties, you'd be lucky sometimes if you can get them to hit the enter button and then shut the deal. And you get rewarded from the state for having a kid take a test. Mm-hmm. If you don't have them take it, they penalize you because you have to have 95% of your kids take the test. Yeah, it is sad. So that helps.
Who is responsible for setting these guidelines of having 95% of kids take this test?
Okay, back when Joy was the state superintendent, we contracted with an out-of-state company to write our ESSA plan.
The state did, right? Yeah. You said we. The state?
The state contracted to make our ESSA plan to turn into the feds. And so basically everything on that plan was just a kitchen sink thrown at them, and then that's what we do. We have to change that ESSA plan.
So it's still there.
The ESSA plan's still there, but if they're dismantling the Department of Ed, who do you send the ESSA plan to? And it's
a big unknown, isn't it?
I'm excited. That's kind of why I was wanted to be appointed already, so I could be there when that $1.3 billion comes through. I think $1.2 billion, because we're looking at $800 million that is federal money. And then because you knock the middleman out, you're going to get another $300 million projected.
Well, let's talk about Governor Stitt this week did appoint somebody. Yeah. This person said not interested in running, so
Absolutely.
he's going to be a placeholder.
Yes.
Do you know him? Can you tell us anything? He's from Tulsa Tech, right?
He's from Technology Center in Bartlesville.
Oh, in Bartlesville, okay.
Yeah, and I think he retired 4 years ago. I just know what everybody else has read.
Okay.
I was at the press conference.
Okay.
And it really looked like he had the heart for a child. Okay. I mean, that really exuded from him, and I was so proud of that. The other thing is we haven't had a superintendent or someone with superintendent certification in 35 years. And so that was a significant moment, and you could just hear the state kind of decompress. And so I think we're getting that environment back.
Right.
As far as knowing about him, I don't know. But if a person has a good heart and they've had training, I think they can be effective. But there was no way that we're going to pick somebody that was running. Yeah. And actually, I was humbled to be called up there and interviewed for that position. Even after there was a hard no on anybody being in that position that's running, I still was respected enough to be able to come and.
Okay, so there's an answer. This is news breaking. Governor Stitt, he set a policy for this appointment. He doesn't want somebody who's running.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's set a policy or just said that is the major question. And he said that, alluded to that in the press conference.
Okay.
That he was glad that Mr. Fields answered the question correctly, that he wasn't running.
Okay. Or at least that's the impression that you have.
Well, that's a major question.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't that, no, I'm unendorsing John or anything like that.
No, and it was really to take the politics out of the position for a while and let us breathe.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that.
Yeah.
And I think I'm in a better place. I think it increased my credibility on what my skills are and let more people see that I'm capable.
Well, yeah, in our short conversation last Saturday morning, I was standing in this room and we're getting ready and booking you for today. Unity was something I could hear coming from your heart, not just your mouth.
Absolutely. And I think it unified the entire state that day. This is Governor Stitt's education department now. Mm-hmm. I mean, he put the team around this person, and I think they can get some things built back up and changed, and they already put the Hall of Fame back up in the hallways. I was excited about that, but they did that the first thing Wednesday morning. I mean, I think an employee put them up. Yeah, little things like that create motivation and
pride.
Yeah, in what we're doing.
Let me ask this one question. It deals with property taxes and millage and so forth. Yeah. And in Tulsa, we have all this money going, and it's not actually going to public. It's going to TCC and Tulsa Tech and things like that. Would that help you if more money could go toward? Because, for example, in a rural community, you guys don't have that, right? Yours is set up differently.
That's probably the biggest difference in school districts. Yeah. Because my school district is a $6 million valuation, the entire district, 80-something square miles. But I can go
80 square miles, okay.
But I can go up here to Oklahoma City, and there's Oakdale School District that has 9 square miles, $95 million. Mm-hmm. It's staggering.
Or look at Bartlesville.
There you go.
Gee. I mean, not Bartlesville, Pryor.
If they had
Pryor.
Well, Pryor has Google.
That's why. See, that's the dynamic.
They're probably over $800 million. The last I heard valuation.
They get no state funding. Well, because they're that wealthy.
True.
Yeah.
And then their building fund, which is a separate fund, is larger than my operating fund for the entire year. And so they have done really good with their money, though. I mean, they have built brand new elementaries, pristine elementaries, and I look at those things and I go, "Wow, I would like to have one of those elementaries." Yeah. But that is the disparity among school districts. If you look at how much Avalon,
probably Jenks, Owasso, some of those.
Because as more local money comes in, state aid drops, and so that's why you said.
They're off the charts. The formula, they're too rich.
Because and it's even above that, even above the point where it evens out.
In fact, I found out about 8 years ago there was like 30-some school districts. Pryor,
33, 32?
And then a bunch of wind farm rural areas with all those big wind farms. See, they pay property tax.
Clinton,
and that's a little known secret.
It's a little I mean, I know that because I'm involved.
Yeah, exactly.
In that, and I see the differences in schools. So, and the state aid formula equalizes things, but if you get excess of money, then you get even more than you would have got in state aid. Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting area on what we have. So.
Yeah, wow.
It's a disincentive to vote for a school bond issue. Because the more we put in, the less we get from the state.
Okay, all right. That's a separate issue.
Okay.
So when you vote for a school bond issue, that's above and beyond any of that.
Yeah, that's capital improvement. You're right.
Yeah, this is a separate, ad valorem is a separate issue.
You're right.
And then if you pass a bond, you get more ad valorem, but it doesn't go in that pot.
You're right.
To take away from state aid. But I'd like to say one more thing about the appointment. I really see the process. I'm not in this for John Cox. I'm trying to follow God's plan in this. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I try to be in too much control. Mm-hmm. So this past week, I really had to take a step back and go, this isn't about me. You know, this is about how you want, and how it's played out is beautiful because this person will go in and start rebuilding, and they'll be able to get some things right, and it'll be perfect for me when I step into that office. And so it's a great plan, and it allows me to really do some good things in my district before I leave and take care of them. And, you know, and it just proves to me that I'm being watched over.
Yeah.
You know, and so I have the Almighty watching over me, and it's powerful, but it's very difficult to live that life because I like to be in control.
Well, yeah,
I like to say, and I really wanted that position because I thought this would be perfect. I could get going. I got 14 months to get it before I would actually be in the position. Right. But I think we have a good person in there that can really.
No, I'm sure you were a serious consideration, but one of his objectives is he didn't want somebody running for office while doing the job in this situation.
Yeah, and I understand that.
And now, during the campaign, 3-4 years ago, you and Ryan had good rapport.
Oh, we
Ryan
did.
Walters.
Yeah.
And then since then, now I was hoping he would put you to work in his administration, but those are other things for another time. But you just talked to him the other day, commended him on one of the things he did that the media was beating him up for.
Yeah, and it was specific to what my plan was, and I was excited about that. And then right before he left on Monday, he put out the reading plan that kind of fits what I would do, and was able to give rural schools a certain amount for training. And then Oklahoma City and Tulsa, he put $1 million into their reading programs.
I don't think you're going to get, you're hurting yourself with the media because you're talking nice about Ryan.
Well, it's not. I mean, I don't disparage I love the office of superintendent, and I have respect for that.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can be perfect in what they do. And what I heard at the fair, both times I were there here in Tulsa and Oklahoma City and out on the road, they're saying, we love what he's saying, but we don't like how he's saying it. So delivery is everything, and really it's kind of like, our discussions. Yeah, it's so important to be able to listen to people and hear what they have to say, and then not beat them in the head. And so, I think that's where my skill comes in because I'm more of a listener.
I ran Pat Buchanan's campaign in Oklahoma a couple of times. He was one of those red meat guys, Okay. He'd throw red meat at a pack of wolves and watch them devour. And Ryan loves red meat.
He does.
Let me ask you,
he does.
This is down practical for your campaign.
Sure.
How are you doing fundraising wise and so forth for your campaign?
I'm thinking we're right. We'll be able to report around 35,000, but for the 2 to 3 months we've been in it, and it's kind of comparable to what my opponent has, because in this race it's a lower level race, and we have at least four high profile governor's races that people are pitching in. Money is scarce, but I see us raising the 500,000 it takes to run. I do, and I see that coming in because people are passionate about children, and it's not given to John Cox; it's giving to a campaign who will help the children.
Yeah,
and I see doing it, and we have to do it.
Yeah, sure. No, I agree.
And so my technique is I reconnect with the network that I had, and in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, it's just extremely powerful. Extremely humbling that people are coming to me and go, we want to help you. And people in power positions, people in the Republican Party, and because we're way past the Dino Democrat thing. Yeah. I mean, way past it now, and they see that I'm that conservative person, and they want to help me. So,
if people want to give to your campaign, how can they do it?
Oh yeah, you can just go directly to cox4ok.com. It's real simple. Cox4ok.com. If you Google me, I'm everywhere. But that's the simplest way.
Is it F-O-R, okay?
Both. We make it simple.
There you
So
go.
F-U-R.
Cox.
F-O-U-R.
Okay.
No, Cox, the number 4.
Oh, the number 4.
Okay.com or coxfor.com. And so no matter how you put it in there, it's fine. And elect Dr. John Cox is how you follow me. And we just surrounded ourselves with really good people. And I see this happening, and I'm excited. I am really excited.
I really am, too. I really am.
this week, the disappointment hit me for a little bit, but that was the human disappointment. And now I see the plan. And so, it's all about what we talked about today.
Right.
Making education better and keeping our kids safe.
I think, you got parents, and they have their outcomes they want to see. Yeah. And then you have the industry of public education. Those aren't always the same priorities.
They're not, but if you lay the foundation, it's the same for both. The foundation for industry or parents are the same. And then the child can come up and go into anything they want to go to.
But we saw COVID really show the difference between whose priorities.
It tore us up. The isolation factor really hurt a lot of kids. Mentally, it hurt them. But it showed us what we need to do. And I will say, everything that's happened, the volatility and what we've been through the last 3 years has really brought people to the forefront on knowing how important state superintendent position is, the effect it has on people in schools. And before, it was just kind of a position, but now they see the importance of who's in there and what we can do with that position. And I am really proud that that I'm out here being able to work, and I have good people supporting me everywhere.
You bet.
So, yeah.
Well,
good.
Sounds great. And we'd love to have you come back after around March in the spring.
Yeah, or earlier.
When things
something else comes up.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, and if you got some news, get a hold of us, okay?
Yeah,
if you
but
got
it's going to be very important about that March time to find out, because that's when it's going to really get rolling and so
Meanwhile,
forth.
I'll see if Mike Ford's ready to endorse you. That'll be fun.
I see his writings pop up every once in a while.
Yeah.
Well,
his job was to make you look more leftist than Obama.
I know.
I know.
And it was.
I blocked him from my communication outlets.
He really tried to hurt some good people, like my secretary at my school, and he really tried to hurt them.
That's what he did. He did that to me years ago. With Jim Bridenstine, because he wanted to work for Jim Bridenstine, and he knew I was there in the beginning. And I didn't even have anything to do with that. I was just a supporter. And next thing I know, people, did you see what Mike Ford wrote about you? What is he writing about me? And just sliming me with basically lies, making up stuff. And I'm thinking, what in the heck?
It's almost like I don't want to acknowledge it at all.
But let's be honest. It was the Mount Holland machine that was going to get Joy in at any cost. And you were in the way.
I was in the way.
Yeah.
And I was in a big way.
Yeah.
So.
And you know what? Everybody's saying, oh, my God, John, you were right.
And
you and Eddie were right.
What's fascinating is if I would have been in the party I really belonged to the first time, and she was in the party she was in, I would have won 70.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, because she was the Democrat. You were the conservative.
Yeah, and I would have had 8 years, but I'm not as wise then as I am now.
Right.
Because experience does everything, and I will do so much better job now than I would have during that 8 years.
Well, you remember the Easley family? Mary Easley was,
I do.
Related to Joy Hoffmeister.
Okay.
It's just coming out of that same bunch. Yeah. They just decided to model her as a conservative Republican.
Yeah. But it all works for the good.
It was the Easley machine.
Yeah, and if you look at the timing, this is the time now, not
right
2014.
Right. No, I agree.
Yeah, no, I had a customer. I won't say his name, but his last name was Easley. I said, "You related to Kevin and Mary Easley?" He says, "Well, yeah, I am." He says, "But Joy Hoffmeister is my cousin."
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh,
everybody's connected somewhere.
Yeah, they are, and agendas are connected.
They are,
and it was that Mary Easley education model of the left.
And I think what's beautiful about my run is I don't have any agenda connected. It's just walking in there and trying to help a child.
Right.
I mean, that's what
we need. That's what we really
That was the best part of Ryan's message is it's got to be kid. The student comes first.
Yeah.
And that resonates with parents.
Every decision should be what's best for a child.
Right,
yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, I supported you last time, but I think a lot of it goes both ways. It's a balance that a lot of the attack on Ryan is just left-wing BS propaganda trying to cut him down. But Ryan hasn't helped himself.
He invites it.
in some of the issues that he has made major which don't have anything to do with education.
And you know what?
That's the things that are killing him. And if he had just focused.
I think he's got the dream job now because he's just fully free to just speak, priorities, values out without having to run an institution.
Yeah.
Right. Well, John, thank you so much for coming in again.
I love this.
Yeah.
Thank you for this.
Tell your grandson we're sorry we kept you long.
Yeah, grandson and granddaughter on the same team.
They're playing soccer
really?
today.
Oh,
no, T-ball.
It's a
T-ball, yeah.
3 and 5 year old. It's a blessing.
Yeah.
I can imagine. I'd love to see a 3-year-old out there pick up the bat.
That's
Are they playing with wiffle balls at 3?
No, but it's a soft baseball, and her bat's probably that long.
Yeah. Now I'm getting ready for a bobblehead football game my grandson's in today.
My.
So you guys, everybody.
Awesome.
Yep.
Hey, John, but again, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And we look forward to the next time, okay?
Very
Yeah.
good.
All right, you take care.
We're going to take a break, come back with the rest of the news.